Hi students, let's study the seventh lesson in your textbook. And the name of the lesson is The Gardener. This is a strange lesson. It's in the form of a story. All of you would like it very much, but not so easy to understand this particular story. Quite philosophic to understand because it is written by a great philosopher of our times. And the name of the writer is P. Lankesh. Unfortunately, he is no more. But I'm sure you must have heard about this man. And I think just a year ago, his daughter was brutally murdered. Gauri Lankesh. This man P. Lankesh is a poet and a versatile writer in Kannada. He himself also had a tabloid. Tabloid is a small newspaper. For example, earlier, Karavadi Munchavu used to come in tabloid form. Tabloid form is little smaller than what it comes presently. Now it's a full newspaper. So he had a tabloid and its name was Lankesh Patrike. Lankesh was his own name. So the newspaper was after his name, Lankesh Patrike. And this writer, Lankesh, P. Lankesh, is also known for his translation works. And translation not of ordinary things. Oedipus Rex. You can see here, Oedipus Rex. You see what is Oedipus Rex? It is a Greek play and he translated into Kannada, Oedipus Rex. Oedipus is the name of the king and Rex means king in Greek language, Oedipus Rex. Similarly, another Greek play, that is Sophocles. Sophocles, he translated into Kannada, and both of these were well-known plays, dramas, and they were played on the stage, so you can imagine. He has also written several plays and they are made into films as well. Now this particular story, that is Gardener, it is translated into English. We have the English version of it and it is translated by H.S. Raghavendra Rao. And he has made it possible so that we are able to study this particular story by P. Lankesh. Now to give you the kernel of the story, it's a strange type of story with a philosophic weave towards life and human behavior. Get my words? Philosophic weave towards life and human behavior. That itself makes you to understand that human behavior is not so much predictable. You may say it is predictable, but sometimes at least human behavior is unpredictable. Now this particular story is based on rivalry, enmity between two characters, two personalities, and they are known as Basavaiah and Tammanna. Basavaiah and Tammanna. These names also may sound a bit strange for you, but geographically it is somewhere in Chennaraipatna, Chitradurga, that area, this particular story is geographically situated. Hence, the local names Basavaiah and Tammanna are kept there. So, this is what in nutshell about this particular story, The Gardener. At the end of the story lesson, we will understand or we will at least discuss why the title of the story is The Gardener and not anything else. The gardener means a person who works in the garden, who makes a beautiful garden. Let's go ahead and study this particular story. I hope your textbook is with you. Now, just to get you again in a nutshell, in this particular story, the story begins with an arrival of an old man. Well, when he comes to the particular place, that is Chennaraipatna, particular place, he just comes as an old man. It's later that we come to know his name is Tammanna. And he comes and begins to narrate his own story. He comes to a particular owner of a garden who we never come across. I mean, he is not seen. We only hear about this particular owner of the garden. Then we also have the owner's wife. Owner's wife, we do not know what is her name, but she appears in the beginning of the story itself. Then we have Tammanna, a person. Who it is, we will come to know during the course of the story. Then the rival, the enemy of Tammanna, that is Basavaiah. This Basavaiah in the beginning is introduced as Sangoji. You see that name, Sangoji. Just a mention of that name. Then soon Sangoji disappears and Basavaiah comes in that place. In fact, Sangoji and Basavaiah both are one and the same. Then we have few other characters. They do not appear so much in the story. So let us remember, we have an old man who narrates his own story. In fact, it is the rivalry. The story itself is the rivalry between Tammanna and Basavaiah. Right. Let's go ahead and study the story. I hope the book is with you. Elaboration can only impoverish this account and make it less authentic. See the way P. Lankesh begins it. He says, I cannot elaborate it. There are many things in life you cannot elaborate. You cannot explain it more. Suppose you try to explain it more, it loses its meaning. Later, when we discuss another lesson in the syllabus, that is an interview between an author that is George Borges and Alifano. There also this George Borges says, well, if you explain certain things, they lose its importance. For example, what is color yellow? Can you explain this color yellow? If you go to explain, then it loses its meaning, it loses its importance. So here also he says, elaboration can only impoverish this account and make it less authentic. I conceived this story in a flash. So P. Lankesh says, this story I conceived, a beautiful word used there, you see, conceived. Conception, usually this word is used when a mother conceives a baby in her womb. Whereas a writer, it is used, now a storyteller or a story writer conceives a story in his mind. So he says, I conceived this story in a flash, meaning to say, it just came like that. It has its genesis. Genesis, this word Genesis, again, it is a Greek word. Genesis means origin, the beginning. If you take the Bible, the first book of Bible is Genesis, because it speaks about the origin of the world, origin of the mankind. So Genesis is a beautiful word in English again. It means the story begins in my chance encounter with an old man. Well, this old man is very, very important for us because it's he who narrates this story. So P. Lankesh says, a chance encounter with an old man. It was not planned. It was, suddenly it happened to be so. He was standing in a coconut grove near Chennarayapatna. Now, while traveling to Mysore from Karwar, you come across Chennarayapatna. Chennarayapatna is known for coconut grove, that is coconut garden. So he says, as I told you already, the story is geographically placed or it takes place in Chennarayapatna. So he says, there he came across a man. Who is this man? He calls him as old man. Now see the beautiful description of this man. How was he looking? His eyes were suffused with strange memories and native intelligence. What do you mean by this native intelligence? Native intelligence, you can call, is not an educated man. He did not have any degrees after his name like MA, M.Ed or doctorate, nothing of that sort. But he had the native intelligence. Native, that is local by birth. He was an intelligent man and he knew the affair of the world. His eyes were suffused with strange memories. When you look at his eyes, you could make out strange memories. You see, I always tell you, they say face is the index of the mind and eyes, they never tell lies. We can read the eyes of a person, we can read the face of a person. So here, this man, his eyes were suffused. They were, filled with the native intelligence. And how was he looking like? He was a tall figure, grey hair, long beak-like nose. See the beautiful description of this man. Tall figure, grey hair. Now, grey hair, not that he is a Buddha or old man. In fact, he was. Now, grey hair also in the Bible, in the book of wisdom, we come across a beautiful saying where it says, grey hair is a sign of wisdom. Wisdom. Usually, when a a human being grows old, his hair turns into grey. Now that is a sign of wisdom. Wisdom, of course, wisdom is not there in the hair of a person, but when a man grows older and older, he becomes wiser and wiser because of the experience that he undergoes in his life. Remember, wisdom and knowledge, these are not the same. Not the same. Knowledge, I get it. There are facts and figures. I read about it. But wisdom, you get it by experience. You get it by experience. Further, continuing, he says, he had strong muscular arms. Strong muscular arms. You can make out he had muscular arms. And being an old man, do you think he was a weightlifter or any other sports personality? Not at all. Here it means that he had a strong muscular arms, means he was working. He was working, so by work, he had kept up his body. And he had a spade in his hand. Spade in his hand. What does it show? Spade means he's a worker, he's a gardener, he works in the garden. Then, secondly, newspaper was tucked under his arm. Now this is very specific or peculiar about this old man. This old man is not an uneducated old man. Remember, he looks like that, but he had a habit of reading the newspaper, which means you can understand, we will understand this importance of this particular significance of this newspaper later as we study this man. Now as he came to this coconut garden, whose coconut garden did he come? That is what we do not know the name of the owner. It is simply said he came to the owner. Now owner, looking at this man, what did the owner do? Owner actually appointed him in his garden. And what was he appointed as? He was appointed as an overseer. Overseer. In other words, today's word, we can call it as, he was appointed as the manager of the garden. And in fact, he was a laborer, he was an overseer, and he is a philosopher. Look at this. He was a laborer. He had a spade in his hand and he would work in the garden. He is a laborer. He was an overseer. What do you mean by overseer? Overseer is a supervisor. Overseer is a manager. So he would manage, which means there will be workers in the garden, so he would manage them. He would supervise and he would oversee them. Then he is a philosopher. You understand? I said he had a newspaper tucked under his arms. So he is a philosopher. What do you mean by philosophy? Philosophy is once again a Greek word. Philos means, remember, philos means love, and Sophia means knowledge. So philosopher is a lover of a knowledge, meaning to say you go in search of the knowledge. We have got great philosophers like Plato, Aristotle. Okay, all these philosophers, they gave us a lot of knowledge. So they are deeper understanding of facts and figures. So this man was also a philosopher, so he knew many things. Then he was well versed in agriculture. He is not an ordinary person, well versed in agriculture. He knew his trade very well. Then knew all the problems of the laborers. See, that's why he was called a overseer. That's why he was called as a philosopher, because he knew all the problems, how to manage the laborers, what all problems can be foreseen, and when they really occur, how to overcome them, how to manage all these details. This man had a perfect knowledge. Okay, now with this explanation, detail or description of the man, let's go ahead. He came to this garden one day after walking hundreds of miles. Okay, now this man comes to the garden of this owner. We do not know who is the owner, but there was an owner and he comes to the garden walking hundreds of miles, which means he has come to Chennarayapatna from a very far off place. And he has come walking hundreds of miles. The owner of this plantation needed a person exactly like him. And in fact, the owner must have thanked God that he got a person like this old man, because he was in need of a person who would look after his garden. So he says he was in need of a person exactly like him. A few words were exchanged. They must have had a kind of interview. Like, whether he knows to work and what kind of work can he do, all those things. There are just few exchange of words. And then what happened? The old man stayed on. He was appointed. He remained in the garden. He was really useful. He was well versed in agriculture and could understand the problems of the workers. The petty thefts in the garden came to an end. Very fact he was appointed as the laborer or as an overseer, the petty thefts, small thefts, that used to take place. Maybe people used to come and steal the coconuts and other produce that used to in the garden. Everything came to an end because he began to have keen interest in the development of the garden. And then there are other things. The income from the garden improved dramatically. This is very, very important. Petty theft stopped. The income of the garden increased. And then the plantation was expanded. Okay, there was a perceptible change in the lifestyle of the owner. The next thing that happened after the arrival of this man was the owner's lifestyle improved. You see, I've put here negatively. What do we mean by improved? Yes, what was not there, some new elements were introduced into his personal life. What was that? The owner became lethargic and shied away from responsibility. Before this old man could enter into the garden, could come into the garden, the old man himself was looking after the garden. Now that he has got a laborer, now that he has got a manager, the old man became lethargic. He became very lazy. You just imagine there is nobody to work at home. We do our work by ourselves. But if somebody else comes, a servant comes, then we become lazy. I'll give you a best example. If there is no washing machine at home, we learn to wash our clothes by ourselves. And the day washing machine is brought, we become very lazy because we put the clothes in the washing machine and it takes care. Whether it becomes clean or not, that is secondary. But we become lethargic, we become lazy. Similarly here, the owner of the garden became very lethargic, shied away from the responsibility. What is that shied away? Shied away means he began to remain far. He wouldn't take any responsibility. Responsibility with regard to the development of the garden. His wealth and social prestige rose higher and higher. Yes, new manager is come, new laborer is come. The income, it is already said, the income increased from the garden. As a result, social prestige rose higher. In the society, he became very rich and people began to recognize him. Number of friends and acquaintances increased. See the next effect. Number of friends. When you got money, you get many friends. And when you don't have friends, it means you don't have money. When you got money, there are so many friends all the time. They loiter around you. You become the central figure there because you have got money, and with that money they in fact take advantage of that. As a result, here also we find the friends increased and acquaintances increased. When there is money, even the relatives come closer. Imagine somebody is abroad, and if they land or come back, suddenly people come, relatives come. Otherwise they just forget. You see, here also acquaintances increased, his friends and others increased. Life became overcrowded or crowded with colorful events. Till now he was always busy in his garden. Now that he has got somebody to take care of the garden, he became busy in colorful events. Maybe he joined some association, some organization, some clubs. He became a member over there, and all the time he was busy there, never paid any attention to the garden. He had this old man. Now one thing, very sad thing happened. Adultery and umpteen number of vices also increased. This is very, very dangerous and very sad. He got into adultery. Adultery, extramarital relationship. He had his wife, but he began to have relationship with other women. You see, which is not correct, morally not correct. It is an immoral act. It's not correct. An umpteen number of vices. Vices refers to bad habits. He got into many habits. Maybe he was playing, he was gambling, or maybe he was drinking, many other, because money is there. When money is there, money speaks. And money speaks, always remember, when money speaks, it stinks. And here also, the life of this owner began to stink, and stink steadily, very badly. Life got out of hand, a beautiful expression. Out of hand means out of control, out of control. And who began to control now? The money began to control. Remember, students, when bad habits, we become the slaves of bad habits, then the bad habits become our master. As a result, we come under the influence or slavery of these bad habits, and they control us. We cannot control our own life. Hence, we need to stand before we fall. Now, this particular story should help us to understand this, and especially the life of this old man should teach us that this is what happens when we have no control over our actions, especially because of money. That's why it is said money is a very, very bad master. Now what happened? This was fine, but their life was also gradually getting out of hand. Now, the wife of this owner, she became apprehensive about his adultery and umpteen other vices. Now, this old man had a wife. She became really upset. She became unhappy over the change that had taken place in her husband after the arrival of this old man. Remember, she did not hate the old man. She did not curse the old man because of your arrival, all these things happened. It is not because of the old man's arrival it happened. All these things happened because old man began to work very well. It's the effect of the money that had this effect on this old man. So the wife was really upset. When she was in a fix like this, what do you mean by fix? She was in a problem like this. One day, the old man met her and behaved as though he knew all about her plight. You see, I had already told you he was a philosopher. He knew. He was a knowledgeable person. So when this old lady, wife of this old man, wife of the owner came to this old man, he behaved as if he knew the problem. He said, I know what is happening in your life. He smiled at her, brought her a tender coconut from the nearby tree, sat on the embankment of the well. She had no alternative and she sat next to him. The sun was slipping away into the western horizon. His rays were reaching the walls of the well through the foliage of coconut, mango and jackfruit trees. The old man began his narrative. Now, when the wife was into this particular kind of problem because of her husband, she came to meet this old man. Now, the old man makes her feel comfortable. He brings down a tender coconut, offers her. They sit on the embankment of the well. Okay, near the well they sit and they begin to talk. Now, remember, she doesn't talk. He begins to talk. And what does he talk? He begins a story, and through this story, he tries to counsel this old lady or the wife of this owner. In a far off place, once there was a man called Tammanna. He had everything, 10 acres of wetland, a comfortable house. Now, this old man says, in the far off place, there was a man called Tammanna. Remember, he introduces this person. He calls him as Tammanna. He had 10 acres of wetland. Wetland refers to agriculture. Any kind of crop there. So 10 acres of wetland. If it is dry land, you see, you have to depend on the rains. And if rains are not there, you cannot grow anything. Hence, it is a wetland. It is a blessing. Then he says, a comfortable house, people too ready to do his bidding. The most important among his possessions was his rival Sangoji. Now, this Tammanna was a very rich man because he had 10 acres of land, he had people, he had servants, everything. But he says that is not so significant. What is very significant is he had another possession. What is that? Rival Sangoji. He calls him as Sangoji. He had an enemy. Tammanna had an enemy, and the name of the enemy is Sangoji. After proceeding this far, the old man started fumbling for words, as though he had committed a mistake. So as this old man was narrating his story, suddenly he began to fumble for words. He began, he was finding it difficult to speak because he felt as if he committed a mistake. And he says, she was listening, the old lady was listening. She felt like going away. He said, why this man is behaving like this? He's narrating me an incident or a story, but he's fumbling for words. She wanted to go away. Saying all this is none of my concern. However, unwilling to hurt the old man, she continued to sit there quietly. She thought, let there be old man, let him have 10 acres of land. I have my own problem. My worry is my husband has got into many vices. And why this man has to narrate? But she felt, well, if I get up and go now, this old man, the laborer, may feel upset. He may feel hurt. So she thought, let me sit and listen to this man. And the man continued. Old man continued, no, his name was not Sangoji, it was Basavaiah. You see, earlier he said Tammanna and his rival, his enemy was Sangoji. Now he says, sorry, it is not Sangoji, his name is Basavaiah. Suddenly he changes the name of this enemy and calls him as Basavaiah. He expressed his amazement at how facts take on such varied guise when they are narrated as fiction. Remember here, the real name of the enemy was Basavaiah itself. And Tammanna means this old man himself is Tammanna. But he wanted to hide his identity. That's why he says, sometimes when you try to, a reality is taken as fiction, when reality is taken as a story, things change. That's what he says. He says here, when facts take on such varied guises, they are narrated as fiction. Here, Tammanna is narrating his own story as a fiction, as an imaginative story. Let it be. He says, okay, fine, let's go ahead. Let us assume his name was Basavaiah. He says, fine. Okay, so he doesn't say he himself is Tammanna, but it begins with Basavaiah. He was Tammanna's rival. He was Tammanna's enemy. If Tammanna bought four more acres adjacent to his land, Basavaiah also followed suit. Now, rival, why it is called rival? Why was it called enemy here? It's very interesting. You see, whatever Tammanna did, Basavaiah also followed the suit. Means he also did the same thing. That was the rivalry between them. Sometimes in the classes or in the classroom, we find this kind of rivalry. What is that? If I get 95 and my other person gets 96, then I go and search the new answer paper where he got more marks. And sometimes I go to the lecturer, teacher and fight for the marks. At least 1.5 marks I should get extra or more than him or her. This is not good. Rivalry is not good. There should be competition, but it should be a healthy competition. Remember, students, what is important? That we give 100%. Of course, out of all, there can be only one person who is first. The second one has to be second. So, it's not important to win, but what is important in life is to give 100%. Remember, this is called healthy competition. But here, between Tammanna and Basavaiah, there was no competition. There was rivalry. So, if Tammanna buys something, even Basavaiah would follow the same. Then, what was it? If one had 10 friends, the other acquired 15 admirers. You see this rivalry. What kind of rivalry was this? If somebody had 10 friends, he say, I have 15, just to show I am greater than you. To begin with, all this looked like healthy competition. However, gradually it rose to such a pitch that there was no land left in the village for them to buy. Now the problem was, what is that? People, both of them, Tammanna and Basavaiah, went on competing with each other. If Tammanna buys something, Basavaiah would also go and buy. It went to that level, in that whole village there was no land left to buy, because either it was with Tammanna or with Basavaiah. So that is the level of the enmity. All land belonged to either Tammanna or Basavaiah. Tammanna had 1,000 acres and Basavaiah owned 800. Now when they together counted, Tammanna had 1,000 acres of land. And if you put together the land owned by Basavaiah, it happened to be 800. Now you can find there is a difference of 200 acres of land. So you can imagine what would happen now. Basavaiah could not tolerate this, because Basavaiah had 800 and Tammanna had 1,000. I'm sure you must be thinking now, what can be done? How to solve the problem? That 2 acres land should be divided between the two so that each one has 900. But you see, who is the winner there? There is no winner. Such a thing cannot remain in rivalry. One has to have more than the other. So he sent word to Tammanna asking him to sell 200 acres. You see, Basavaiah sent word to Tammanna, I would like to have 200 acres from your land so that I would have 1,000 and you would have 800 acres. Tammanna did not agree. Quite normal, quite natural. Tammanna did not want to concede. So he said he did not agree. He was prepared to buy all the land that belonged to Basavaiah. Tammanna said, what about giving 200? Forget about giving you 200 acres. I would buy the 800 acres which is in your possession. He wanted to buy everything and leave Tammanna penniless, leave Tammanna without any land. Basavaiah was mad with rage. Basavaiah was angry because Tammanna was not ready, which means he has to accept the defeat, which cannot be. Tammanna's land forcibly. Okay, and he said he went along with his people and acquired 200 acres of Tammanna's land forcibly. So what he did now? Nothing. Muscle power. He went, took his men and forcibly acquired 200 acres from Tammanna, which means now Basavaiah would have 1,000 acres and Tammanna 200 acres less. A fence was built around that land. Tammanna could not tolerate this invasion. He not only invaded or took the land forcefully, he built a fence. He fenced it. He fenced it and said, this belongs to me. So now who is the winner? Basavaiah has got 1000, Tammanna has got 800. Now you think Tammanna would keep quiet? Tammanna could not tolerate this because he has become little less in the sight of his enemy, rival, Basavaiah. By now, quarrel between these two had sucked in all their supporters. Now you can imagine, in their whole village, people could be belonging to only two categories. Either they are the supporters of Tammanna or they are the supporters of Basavaiah. Tammanna was advised by his supporters about the various means available for getting back his land. Now people of Tammanna said, we need to get it back. They gave him many suggestions. You know very well, people are very good in giving suggestions. There was the court of law. Then one could also take recourse to the police. If you did not want that, there were many number of persons ready to attack Basavaiah. So they said, especially they gave him three options. Option number one, go and meet the judge, that is court of law. Or you can settle it outside the court, meet the police and you can settle it there. If not that, then there is muscle power. They said they can go and attack Basavaiah, and as Basavaiah had taken the land forcefully, even Tammanna could take back the land forcefully. So there were these three options given to Tammanna by his followers. Such a war had become virtually inevitable. The situation was so bad, it was to be like, presently what is happening between India and China. So as if both of them are going to war with each other. But Tammanna was in search of a method that could annihilate Basavaiah completely. But you think Tammanna wanted now? No. Tammanna thought something different. Okay? He did not want to have this rivalry. He did not want to have this revenge or fighting for the sake of land. He says, well, I need to fight against or fight my enemy, my rival, Basavaiah, but not with regard to land. Something different. So Tammanna, as I told you already, this old man who has come to the garden, remember, he himself is Tammanna. He is a philosopher. He is a knowledgeable person. So his eyes were suffused with knowledge. He devises, he invents a plan to compete with Basavaiah. What is that plan? Very interesting plan. He hit upon the idea of composing all his experiences in the form of ballads and singing them. Very strange plan, you see. So far, Tammanna and Basavaiah were trying to grab land and boast of their wealth and compare with each other. Now that Basavaiah has taken 200 acres of Tammanna's land forcibly and he has got more than Tammanna, Tammanna doesn't want to compete with Basavaiah in the level of acquiring land. So he says, let me do something different. What does he begin? He begins to compose ballads. Ballads are songs or stories in the form of songs. In olden days, people used to go from house to house when there was like present day, they did not have any entertainment. Hence, people would compose ballads. Ballads were nothing but songs or stories, especially the stories of chivalry, that is adventure. And these stories were narrated in the form of songs and they were called ballads. Maybe they used to use a musical instrument and go and sing, and people used to listen because it was not only a song but it was also a chivalrous story. So here he composes ballads. For simple words we can understand, he composes songs. Now what was the content of this song? He put his all experience with Tammanna, Basavaiah. Tammanna composed ballads based on the experiences he had with Basavaiah. Now the rivalry between Tammanna and Basavaiah started moving away from things that are visible towards an invisible or abstract domain. This is very, very important. Remember, I told you there is a shift, there is a paradigm shift. What is the shift? Shift from acquiring land to ballads, or shift from wealth to literature. So this was a plan made by Tammanna to compete with Basavaiah. from here we have to see whether Tammanna or Basavaiah would compete with Tammanna or not. It is said there, Basavaiah had no answer to this. Basavaiah had no answer to what? To the story or to the songs or ballads composed by Tammanna. You see, till this moment, whatever Tammanna did, Basavaiah would follow it. But now, could Basavaiah compete with Tammanna with regard to literature? In other words, with regard to composing songs and singing them. How did Tammanna do it? He performed his agricultural task more diligently. What did Basavaiah do? Basavaiah gave importance only for agriculture. But Tammanna, there was no answer. This was not answer to Tammanna. Tammanna's reputation started spreading all around. His song started making a mention of Basavaiah's cruelty and meanness. Scholars of folklore were after him. Critics started analyzing and translating his songs and thus earned their share of fame. Basavaiah helplessly watched all this, consumed by anger. He encroached more and more into Tammanna's land. Tammanna did not notice any of these activities. Art had become the raison d'etre of his life. He was felicitated as the best poet of his time. Remember, what did Tammanna do now? Tammanna went on composing songs, in other words, ballads. Now, what was the content of this ballad? Nothing but the meanness of Basavaiah. He composed the song and sang them in public, and he made the people aware how Basavaiah would deal with him or how Basavaiah dealt with him. Now we know very well Basavaiah forcefully took away the land. It was a very negative kind of competition that was there. So the whole world, the village came to know how mean was Basavaiah. So the content of the Tammanna songs were the meanness of Basavaiah. People came to know all the experience of Tammanna with Basavaiah was in the form of ballads. Art became the raison d'etre of Tammanna's life. Till now, acquiring wealth. But now there is a change, there is a shift. And art, what kind of art here? It is nothing but literature. So raison d'etre is the French expression raison d'etre, which means the purpose. The purpose or most important thing in life. So what was the most important thing in Tammanna's life so far? So far, remember, it was acquiring wealth, or more than that, competing with Basavaiah. Now, acquiring wealth disappeared. Now he began to compete with Basavaiah in the field of art. We do not know whether Basavaiah would follow, and even Basavaiah could compete with Tammanna. Let's see. So, but he says, he is living now not for wealth. He is living now raison d'etre. Purpose of his life is to compose ballads. Is to compose songs. Let's see what Basavaiah did. Basavaiah shrunk in humiliation. Basavaiah shrunk in humiliation because he couldn't compete with Tammanna. Nevertheless, he started filling his life with all kinds of material wealth. You see, as much Tammanna began to compose more and more ballads, Basavaiah was busy acquiring more and more wealth because he was feeling that kind of emptiness in his life, and he thought acquiring more wealth would make him feel satisfied, contented. So he went on acquiring more and more wealth. He got a palatial mansion built for himself. Basavaiah built a very big palatial house, a palace, a mansion. He appointed a number of persons just to praise him. Because there were many people behind Tammanna praising him especially for his ballads, for his art, for his literature. And there was nobody to praise Basavaiah. So what did Basavaiah do now? He appointed some people to just praise him. Isn't it very pathetic of Basavaiah? You must have heard in olden days, kings used to have some people to praise in his own palace. And these people, they were called in Kannada as Pogalu Bhattas. They just used to come and praise the king. And king used to feel very much elated, very much happy that people are praising him. Similarly, Basavaiah appointed some people just to praise him. Why? Because in other words, in the society, people used to praise Tammanna for his achievements, and Basavaiah had no other achievements than his wealth. So he appointed some people to praise him. He bedecked himself with gold, diamonds and other precious stones. He used to adorn himself with gold and diamonds and other things so that people may praise him. But his house looked dull and empty because Tammanna's books were not there. This was the biggest problem. Though he had all the wealth, though he went about wearing gold and diamonds and all the other jewelry, the house looked empty because Tammanna's books were not there. Tammanna had become so famous a poet, so famous a writer, so famous a singer that people, thought it is a prestige to have Tammanna's books, collection of poems in their house. But Basavaiah could not keep that book because Tammanna is his enemy, hence he couldn't keep it. Hence, that became a reason for the emptiness in his house. People who came to his house said, "Your house is beautiful, but if there was Tammanna's books, it would have been more beautiful." Hence, without Tammanna's books in Basavaiah's house, it looked really empty. That is what the visitors told him. Therefore, he started inviting scholars, poets and musicians to his place. This was his way of investing his home with meaning. Hence, when people began to say that your house looks empty without Tammanna's books, he started to invite poets, musicians and scholars and would have, kind of discussion or seminars in his house so that, he could do away with this emptiness. See the way Basavaiah is competing with Tammanna. Now remember, Tammanna is not bothered about Basavaiah. Tammanna is in his own way and he is going higher and higher. He is climbing step by step in his art, in his composition of ballads and singing them. One day he came to know that Tammanna was ill. Remember, as the days went by, Basavaiah, very well he couldn't compete with Tammanna, but one day there was a kind of good news for this Basavaiah. And what was the good news? He came to know that Tammanna was ill. You remember, health is wealth. Now he came to know that Tammanna is well, is not well. Tammanna has lost his health. At this point, Basavaiah found the means of surpassing Tammanna. And now Basavaiah thought, where can you go? You think you can go higher and higher? This is the beginning of your end. He went on telling. Basavaiah told Tammanna, this is the end of, or this is the beginning of your end. Now that you are not well, which means soon you will die. Where is your competition? Where are your ballads? Where is your music? So he said, well, at this point Basavaiah found the means of surpassing, overcoming Tammanna. Health is wealth. You may sing, you may write ballads, but if Tammanna started suffering from disease, surely his own spirits would be revived. Tammanna's disease was Basavaiah's health. See the expression. Tammanna's disease was Basavaiah's health. Basavaiah thought, well, if you suffer, which means I win. So in his suffering, he was finding victory. So he said, well, Tammanna is suffering now. That is the beginning of your end, or beginning of his end, which means that is my victory. So in Tammanna's disease, Basavaiah sensed or felt that he was becoming healthier and wealthier as well. But remember, Tammanna is a philosopher. He is not a person to concede the defeat. He is not a person to succumb. He is not a person to surrender so fast. However, by this time, Tammanna had thought of yet another method of punishing Basavaiah. You remember, first level of competition was wealth or land, possessing land, and Tammanna defeated Basavaiah by shifting from wealth to art. And now there is a chance for Basavaiah to defeat or overcome Tammanna. Tammanna once again shifts. Again there is a change. Again there is a change of medium of competition. Tammanna thinks of another plan. What is that? That was death. That was death. You mean to say Tammanna is going to commit suicide? You mean to say, or do you think Basavaiah or Tammanna is going to kill Basavaiah? Very interesting. Let's see. If he continued at the level of the body, Basavaiah would go on offering a stiff competition. But if the song was separated from his body, if there was no relation between the songs and his own flesh and blood, this is how his thoughts went. Now suddenly Tammanna thought, As long as I compete with Basavaiah on the body level, physical level, Basavaiah would always compete. Always he would compete. He would offer a stiff competition, very tough competition. What if I change from body level to spirit level, or separate my songs from my body? It's a little difficult to understand what exactly Tammanna wanted to convey. But he says that I want to separate my songs from my body, from my personality. What is the plan he had? Let us see. That's when I realized how strange human nature can be. The old man began his explanation to the owner's wife. You see, now that old lady is sitting and she's listening to this particular story, rivalry between Tammanna and Basavaiah, and this old man says, this is where I understood human nature can be very strange. Now, what do we mean by very strange human nature? I'm sure all of you have got different experiences in your life, with your friends sometimes, with your close friends, with your neighbors, or with many people. You have got different kinds of experience, and you have come to know the different faces, different sides or shades of human personality or human behavior. Here also we come to know a very strange aspect of human nature, and Tammanna presents it a little differently. How does he present? You see here he begins like this. Man needs wealth, man needs education, art and many more things, and yet he lives for some kind of unbearable vengefulness. Can you see here? He lives for some kind of unbearable vengefulness. Students, I want you to give importance, pay attention to this particular statement which Tammanna makes, that man lives for some kind of vengefulness. What do you mean by vengefulness? Revenge. Do you agree with this statement? What is that? That man lives to take revenge. And what do you think? Should we live to take revenge on our enemies? I would request you, please do not. I do not subscribe to this particular statement of Tammanna that we live only to take revenge. No, don't take revenge. If your enemy has done something bad and you do also something bad to him in return, what is the difference between both of you? Both are same? No, there should be some difference. Beautiful words from Jesus. He says, if somebody slaps you on one cheek, offer him the other cheek. If somebody makes you to walk one step, walk with him 1 mile, walk with him 2 miles. That doesn't mean when injustice is done, we have to keep quiet. Keep quiet. What Jesus means is that we need to annihilate injustice from this world. You see, you must have heard in your social science, Code of Hammurabi, where it was said eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth. Meaning to say, if somebody has caused some harm to your eye, you also should cause some harm to his eye. Now you see, earlier only one was damaged, now both are damaged. This code cannot be right. If he has broken your left hand, you go and break his left hand. Now there was only one person with a broken hand, now there are 2 people with broken hand. How can it be right? That's why Jesus says that if he breaks your hand, don't go and break his hand. Help him to recover, so that your enemy is gone and you become friends. So we cannot accept this. But Tammanna has got his statement. He says, we live for some kind of vengefulness. Even in your student life, somebody does something wrong to you or sometimes due to misunderstanding, never go to take revenge. Forgive that person. Show to him that you are different from him, and different not negatively, positively. So he says that raison d'etre, purpose of living life is to take revenge. Is it possible? But Tammanna says like that. Without it, there would be no reason for its existence, he says. This is not a real story, only what I have heard somewhere. You may know that I subscribe to a daily. To you, I am just an old man. After a particular age, man loses his name. You see, this is what the philosophy I mean. He says, man always tries or keeps up his name by achieving many things in life. But after a particular age, the name disappears. After a certain age, man loses his name. How it is possible? It is true also. There are so many people who have achieved many things. Just imagine the people who are in the sports field and all. They shine so much. People who are in film industry, they shine so much. But after a particular age, they lose their name. They lose their name. His age becomes important and his name vanishes into thin air. I told you, with the age, with the grey hair, we receive wisdom. We get wisdom. So he says, age becomes important and man, his name vanishes into thin air. Now I am an old man in this garden, your servant. And he goes on narrating. Now I am an old man in this garden and you are your servant. I am also the person who reads the newspapers and looks after the garden properly. I conceived the story of Tammanna and Basavaiah when all of a sudden Russia and America, I am not your enemy, I shall not wage a war against you. What must have been the reaction of America, the sworn enemy of Russia, to this declaration? Now a little bit of history we need to understand. Tammanna and Basavaiah, Tammanna compares and he quotes an incident or something that is historical. What is that? If you remember, Russia and America were staunch enemies. I shouldn't say, but still I tell you, something like India and Pakistan. So the purpose Russia developed is only to take revenge on America, or the purpose America developed only to take revenge on Russia. For them, the only achievement in life was to defeat America, or for America, the purpose was to defeat Russia. Now Tammanna gives an example and he says that what must have been the reaction of America, the sworn enemy of Russia, to this declaration when Russia said, I am not your enemy. And it happened one fine day, Russia told America, you are no more my enemy but we are friends. Now you see, so far America garnered everything. They had all the military force only to defeat Russia. And now Russia says, I am not interested to fight with you. I don't want to fight with you. What must have America failed? Because so far America was doing everything only to take revenge on Russia. But now Russia is not interested in fighting with America. You just imagine a World Cup match is organized between India and Pakistan. Suddenly Pakistan says, we don't want to play with you. There is no meaning. We have seen people, when there is a match between India and Pakistan, how people get, taken up. How the adrenaline flows through our nerves. And the only thing we want is that India should defeat Pakistan. And suppose India doesn't defeat Pakistan and Pakistan wins, we can see people breaking the TV sets. I do not know whether match is there inside the TV set. People do that. Sometimes people go and burn the effigies of the cricket players. Madness. Because this is what Tammanna says, that we live to take revenge. And the day India defeats Pakistan, there is a celebration. There's a celebration, which means looks sometimes that human behavior very strange, and Tammanna is right. So he says, when the enmity ended between Russia and America, what happened? Same thing happened to even Basavaiah and Tammanna. You remember now where the story has stopped? Story has stopped. Basavaiah has come to know that Tammanna is ill. Tammanna is not well. Okay, and now Tammanna is not in the picture. And where is he gone to? Basavaiah doesn't know. He continues. A nation is capable of withstanding stings like this, but a human being cannot. I suffered a similar fate. I thought my death alone could destroy Basavaiah. I gave up everything and started off. A few days later, I left. Basavaiah passed away. He had no more reason to live. I had told you, story stopped where Basavaiah thought Tammanna is ill and soon Tammanna is going to die and Basavaiah is going to win. And in fact, Tammanna disappeared from the radar of Basavaiah. Tammanna disappeared from that place and Basavaiah thought that Tammanna is no more. Basavaiah thought that Tammanna is dead and gone. Now that Tammanna is not there, there was no meaning in his life. Why? So far he was living only to take revenge on Tammanna. Now Tammanna is dead and Basavaiah thinks, what can I live for? Whom can I live for? There is no meaning in my life, and even Basavaiah passed off. Basavaiah died. Basavaiah expired because there was no raison d'etre for Basavaiah's living. So even Basavaiah died. And Tammanna says, and he compares himself to Russia and America. But he says, well, country could stand off. Russia and America are still existing. They are there and they could stand this shock. But Basavaiah could not stand the shock of not having a rival. And he had nothing, he had nobody to take revenge upon, and he died. What did Basavaiah Tammanna do now? My name is Tammanna. I told you, this old man says, it was me, or it is me who Basavaiah was angry with, or was, keeping the enmity. My name is Tammanna. After his death, I forgot all my songs and ballads. I, who was once famous, became a non-entity. Thus, I avenged myself. Now, Tammanna says, well, I came to know that Basavaiah died. How did he come to know that Basavaiah is no more? Because Tammanna has left the place and come. Remember, he says, I always read the newspaper. Yes, he came to know through the newspaper that Basavaiah has died. He came to know through the newspaper that Basavaiah has died because Tammanna is not there. In other words, because there is nobody to compete with him, Basavaiah found no meaning in his life. Hence, he died. He did not commit suicide, but he died because there was no purpose in his living. So, Tammanna says, once Basavaiah died, even I forgot my ballads, I forgot my songs. Yes, quite normal, because Tammanna has no reason to live now. Because he was doing all these things to compete with Basavaiah. Now Basavaiah himself is not there, who could he compete with? Tammanna became a transformed person. He forgot his songs, he forgot his rivalry. Hence, he has to find meaning in something else now. Because he has to substitute his ballads and singing with something else. So what he did? We know now, the man who came walking all the way to Chennarayapatna was this thing Tammanna. And where did he find meaning now? He found meaning in doing this gardening work. Now Tammanna says, your husband is flourishing today as a rich man. He is not amenable to any advice. Amenable, correctable. You see, your husband is flourishing. He is becoming a rich man. He is telling him, well, his situation is going to become something like Basavaiah. Today he is a rich man. Today he is a well-known, but a day will come where there will not be any meaning in his life. Man is so complicated that till the day of his death, he goes on living for some revenge or the other, confronting one challenge or the other. Here, Tammanna says that this old man, the owner of the land, this particular garden, is now into many vices because he is trying to achieve something in his life, or he is taking one challenge of the other. But a day will come in his life where his life will be something like Basavaiah or something like Tammanna. Basavaiah found no meaning, he died. So he says, well, now there will be problems, but all these problems will disappear one day, or soon they will be different. There will not be, these problems won't be there. Amma, do not think otherwise. Just assume I did not tell you any of this. Now, maybe the woman got into deep thinking after listening to the story of Tammanna and Basavaiah. So he calls her Amma and says, well, don't be so serious. Don't think that I told you this story. Just forget. Or think all this happened in a dream. You just imagine it is a dream. The laborers have started going home. That young child of Lokaya paints well. He is bedridden with fever. I shall pay him a visit. Look at this laborer now. Look at this old man, that is Tammanna. He says, Lokaya's son is not well. Who is Lokaya? Lokaya is a laborer in the garden. His son is not well and he says, I must pay a visit. Remember, I told him he is appointed as a supervisor. He is appointed as an overseer. So he says, I must pay a visit to this laborer, Lokaya's son. Now, he doesn't find meaning in singing ballads. Now, he doesn't find meaning in doing anything, but he finds meaning in going and visiting this sick person. You see how he becomes altruistic. So far, he was self-centered. He was thinking about himself, how to win over Basavaiah. But now, he has begun to think about others. He has begun to think, he says, his son paints well, he is not well, I must go and pay a visit to him. A kind of social service. In other words, he finds meaning in reaching out to others. I shall pay him a visit. Forgive me, unable to elaborate, I have told you whatever I felt as it is. I had seen all this in a dream. Now this is the note by P. Lankesh. He says, well, I cannot elaborate this more because all these things I saw in a dream. So dear students, for us what is important? This particular thing. Man is so complicated that till the day of his death, he goes on living for some revenge or the other, confronting one or the other challenge. I have asked you a question there. Can you agree with the above proposition? Can you agree with the statement that man lives to take revenge? I have already told you, it cannot be, it cannot be. If you think you live only to take revenge, the next question comes, after taking revenge, what is there next? See, Tammanna had nothing there next. At least he found meaning in doing some gardening work. But Basavaiah, he wanted to take revenge, but when Tammanna was not there, he found no meaning, hence he died. He did not live. He did not live. Hence, revenge is not the final thing. That is not the final thing. Let us always love our enemies. Let us learn to forgive them. Let us be a different person so that we change, we transform even our enemies. Is revenge the only raison d'etre of human existence? If revenge is the only purpose of our existence, then the whole world will be war with each other, or we will go on killing the other person because we take revenge on the other. There will be so many people always doing or causing harm to us. If we go on taking revenge, then we will be destroying one another soon. Hence, that should not be the purpose of our life. The purpose of our life is to give meaning to other people. Now I would like to come to the title of the story, The Gardener. Why the title of the story is The Gardener? What is the work of a gardener? Gardener works in a garden. He makes the garden beautiful. He removes all the unwanted things from the garden and plants something very productive. It can be a flower garden, it can be a fruit garden or anything. Hence, when you do all these things, you become or you make the place very useful, you make the place very beautiful. You look at here, this old man, that is Tammanna, comes to this place and improves the garden, improves the income, improves the garden. And he finds meaning in going and helping Lokaya's son. Similarly, we should do the same thing. We should go and you consider society as the garden. And you will find many unwanted things there. We should go and pluck those unwanted things and plant something nice so that some nice things come out. Some good fruits are given. Fruits of love, fruits of understanding, fruits of helping others, all these things, and we should make this society a beautiful place for everybody to live. I am sure this particular lesson, The Gardener, would make all of you or would bring out the gardener from within and make you to make this world a better place to live.